Good morning. Thank you for coming. Yes. Okay. Okay, basta. My apology. Good morning. Thank you for coming. On behalf of the members of the Standing Committee on Executive Appointment and Government Investigation, we'd like to welcome Governor's Representative, Mr. Oscar Babauta, the appointee, Mr. Bartley A. Jackson, elected officials, dignitaries, and members of the general public. Before we proceed forward with this public hearing, let me first introduce the members of this Standing Committee. To my right side of the aisle is Senator Corina Magofnia from the 3rd Senatorial District, Saipan. And to my left side of the aisle is the Vice President of the Senate, Senator Carl King Neighbors from the 2nd Senatorial District, Tinian. And next to him is Senator Ron Calvo from the 1st Senatorial District, Rhoda. I would also like to announce a couple of things in the interest of informational purposes regarding some House rules and code of conduct during this public hearing. Today, the members of this committee are conducting a public hearing on the appointment of Mr. Jackson to serve as a board of director of the Commonwealth Ports Authority to represent the island of Saipan. The public will be invited to make comments as to whether you support or oppose the appointee before us this morning. We value your input. However, any comments beyond the facts of the appointee or comments that are not directly related with this public hearing will not be entertained, and such comment will be removed from the record. At the same time, please observe minimal noises in disrupting this hearing process. Please turn your electronic to a silent mode. Thank you. Let us now begin. This public hearing is now in session. Today is Thursday, February 6, 2025, at approximately 9:34 in the morning, here at the Honorable Supi Mafnas Memorial Building, Senate Chamber, Capitol Hill, Saipan. This is a public hearing regarding the appointment of Mr. Bartley A. Jackson to serve as a board of directors of the Commonwealth Port Authority representing the island of Saipan. Ben Terlai will be our sergeant at arms. Devon Macoronas will be our clerk for this hearing. Jonathan, the IT will be Jonathan Diaz. On our legal counsel will be Mr. Joe Bermudez, and they will all serve accordingly for this public hearing. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Ronnie M. Calvo,
Present.
Senator Francisco Q. Cruz,
Here.
Senator Carl R. King Neighbors,
Here.
Senator Corina L. Magofnia,
Present.
Senator Donald M. Manglonia. Mr. Chairman, there are 4 members present and 1 member absent.
Thank you, Mr. Macoronas. With 4 members present, we have the necessary number to proceed with this public hearing. However, the floor leader of the Senate, Senator Donald Manglonia, is excused for this hearing. At this time, do I hear a motion to adopt our agenda? There's a motion on the floor for the adoption of our agenda and was seconded. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. At this time, I'd like to ask the Sergeant Arm to please escort the governor's rep and the appointee into the chamber. And sir, before you proceed forward with your testimony, please state your name for the record. Thank you.
Good morning,
Alphaday and Tiro Chairman Frank Cruz, and your honorable members of this esteemed committee. EAGI of the 24th Senate. For the record, my name is Oscar M. Babauta, the Special Assistant for the Administration under the Office of Governor Arnold I. Palacios and Lieutenant Governor David A. Mapateng. I thank you for the opportunity to appear before you and your members this morning, today. I am here to officially introduce the administration's nominee of Mr. Bartley A. Jackson for the Commonwealth Ports Authority Board of Directors. By now, you should have received his resume, which outlines his professional experience and education. Mr. Jackson is a distinguished senior business and executive owner. His exemplary professional background underscores his extensive experience and steadfast dedication to the private sector. With over 32 years of successful involvement, Mr. Chairman and members, in developing, owning, and leading and managing commercial and hospitality properties across the United States, Sinamay, and Guam. Mr. Jackson obtained his Master of Business Administration from Columbia University in New York, and Governor Palacios and Lieutenant Governor Apateng have deeply expressed their complete trust and confidence in the nomination of Mr. Jackson to serve on the Commonwealth Ports Authority Board of Directors. He is very well prepared to address any inquiry and outline his strategic vision for the future. Given his comprehensive professional experience, credentials, and commitment to our Commonwealth in this vital capacity. Mr. Jackson is exceptionally qualified candidate. We respectfully request your prompt deliberation and approval of his nomination to the full Senate of the next Senate session. Once again, thank you, Jesus Masi Angeliso, Mr. Chairman and members of this EAJ committee, for the opportunity to introduce him to this august body. And I further enjoy your hearing this morning, Mr. Chairman, as I probably assume this is your first committee's hearing. And thank you. We would abide to the EAJI's new rules and policy of this Senate. Thank you and good morning to all of you. Jesus Masi, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Babauta. And before I recognize the appointee to deliver any testimony, I would like you, sir, to please stand and raise your hand so the clerk can administer the oath.
Bartley A. Jackson, you do solemnly swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you shall give in the matter at hand shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Jackson, I know that you have submitted all required documents by this standing committee, but if you have anything else that you wish to share with this committee, you have the floor, but please state your name for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Bartley A. Jackson. I'm often called Bart. Either way, it works fine. Thank you. Hafaday and Tiro. It's great to be here this morning, greeting all you distinguished senators and guests. Mayor Aldon in the back. Thank you for coming, Mr. Mayor. It's an honor to be nominated for a position on the CPA board. I want to thank Governor Palacios for his confidence in me, for his faith in my ability to make a positive contribution to the CPA board. I've been living in the Marianas for 35 years, working in Guam, working in Saipan, traveling back and forth for most of that. Well, that full-time for the last 6 years, a full-time resident and voter in the CNMI for the past 6 years. I'm a business owner, manager, and developer in the Marianas. I don't purport to be an expert in the business of the Port Authority. I'm not an airline expert, an airport expert, a port expert. but I'm a businessman. I bring a business perspective. I bring a tourism perspective to everything I encounter. I promise to work hard and to bring that perspective, that business view with an emphasis on tourism to this position should I be approved. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. And before I open the floor for public comment, again, I would like to recognize the members of the standing committee to ask question. Oh, I apologize. Take it back. We have invited a couple of entities to participate in this public hearing. First, I would like to recognize Mr. Frederick A. Pangilinan, Acting Executive Director for CPA, if he's here, or any representative from CPA. None. Let the record reflect there's no one from CPA. Members of the Ports, CPA Ports Authority, Board of Directors. None. For the record, the board member, Deputy Commissioner of Defense, Mr. Mesgun, messaged me that in support, but he apologizes not able to participate this morning. Any other member that is here? No one? Let the record reflect there's no other members that is here to participate in this public hearing. At this time, I would like to recognize the members of the general public to participate in giving testimony, whether you support or not. But before you come up, please, I want to remind everyone again that any comments that are not directly related with this hearing will not be entertained, and such comment will be removed from the record. At this time, public comment is now open. Anyone in the gallery wishes to come up and deliver testimony? Come up, sir. Please, before you proceed, I want to remind everyone, please, before you deliver your testimony, please state your name for the record. Thank you.
Jay Santos, here representing myself. Bonus Chairman Cruz in the Committee on Executive Appointments and Government Investigations. Thank you for the opportunity to testify before you today. I had the privilege of working for Bart Jackson at Pacific Islands Club in the late 90s when he was general manager and I was the purchasing manager. It was a great time for tourism when occupancy for all the hotels on the island was at its best. PIC was brimming with visitors from Japan and Korea, and our entire island enjoyed an economy where tourism was indeed everyone's business. We had multiple daily flights from Narita Airport on Japan Airlines, Northwest Airlines, and Continental Air Micronesia. I recall JAL and Northwest flew mostly from Narita, but Continental Air Mic also had flights from cities such as Fukuoka, Osaka, Nagoya, and Sendai. It was indeed a wonderful time here on our islands. I'm here today in support of Bart's nomination to the Commonwealth Ports Authority Board of Directors. I commend Governor Palacios for nominating an individual that has been a part of our tourism industry for almost his entire career. I truly believe that Bart is exactly what CPA needs at this time. An individual that has made our islands his home for well over 30 years, which is testament for his love of the Marianas. Moreover, someone that has the experience to help find ways to attract airlines to our islands. As you may know, I work for a company whose businesses are greatly affected by the current economic woes that we all share here in the islands. We need to improve upon the only viable industry we have, and that is tourism. And we need the right people to help us get there. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Still open for public comment?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the Executive Appointment Committee. My name is Mayor Edwin Pionon from the island of Tinian. Afternoon, Tiro, members and chairman. I'm here to express my full support for the nomination of Mr. Bartley A. Jackson to serve on the Commonwealth Ports Authority Board. With over 32 years of experience in developing, managing, and consulting on commercial and hospitality projects, I believe Mr. Jackson possesses the unique blend of expertise, leadership, and vision that the Commonwealth Ports Authority needs, especially at a time when the agency is in dire need of addressing their financial challenges. Throughout his career, Bartley has demonstrated a strong commitment to excellence in all his endeavors. His experience in hotel development and project management highlights his ability to navigate complex challenges and deliver effective solutions. Furthermore, his work in human resources illustrates his dedication to fostering strong, collaborative teams, which is essential for the successful functioning of any board. Bartley's comprehensive understanding of both public and private sectors, combined with his proven track record in community engagement and economic development, makes him an ideal candidate for the Commonwealth Ports Authority Board. His strategic mindset and forward-thinking approach will be an invaluable in addressing the current and future needs of our ports, especially in the face of the ongoing challenges and opportunities. I asked again this committee to please confirm Mr. Bartley A. Jackson, and I believe he will make a significant contribution to the Commonwealth Ports Authority. And thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. Jesus mas.
Thank you, sir. Still open for public comment?
Alfredates and Tiruami. My name is Joe Guerrero. I'm here as a private citizen and also a small business owner, Transcends Consulting. I'm here to express, good morning, Mr. Chairman and esteemed members of this committee. I'm here to express my strong and full support of the nomination of Bartley Jackson, better known as Bart, to serve on the board of the Commonwealth Ports Authority for several reasons. First, looking at his resume that displays his education and professional achievements, to many young people, that would seem like a dream, almost like a fake resume. He has a lot of experience and the right training. But more importantly, I've known Bart for 6 years, actually many years, through my father. My father's Antonio Guerrero served on the MVA board in the 90s, and I would always hear him tell me stories as a young adult about this Bartley Jackson. And then 6 years ago, when he joined Bridge Capital, I also do work for Bridge Capital as a consultant. I met and had the opportunity to work with Bart on several projects, and I can say that he is true to what my dad would often share with me, that he's a go-getter, he's a doer, he gets things done, and very practical, but at the same time very sensitive to the needs and desires of our locals. Having been a part of the community in sports, he's very well known, especially in the we're a fellow Wash community. They know him and he knows them on a first name basis. So some of you may not know him very well, but he was very active once upon a time in golf, and he won gold for the CNMI in micro games many years ago. But last but not least, and maybe most important, is that I know Bart to have the heart of the people, and I trust and have full confidence that he will keep the people of the CNMI in mind as he executes his duties and adds to the board. So please, I ask for your full consideration of his nomination to the board. Jesus Masi.
Thank you, sir. Still open for public comment?
Like this. Good morning, Chairman and honorable committee members. For the record, I am Mariano Taitano. I'm also known as Mario Taitano. First, I would like to congratulate the governor for making an excellent choice of the nominee to serve on the board of directors for the Commonwealth Ports Authority. I'm here to support the nomination of my friend, Bart Jackson. I've known him for over 30 years. General manager for Pacific Islands Club for many years here in San Antonio, as well as on Guam. And he expressed his love for the Marianas. He came back to Saipan and hopefully stay with us. He brings with him a vast knowledge and background in business, in the hotel and tourism industry. And I know that he will be an asset as a board of director for the Commonwealth Ports Authority. For those of you who do not know Bart, I'm happy to say that Bart I got to know him better when he is heavily involved in the local sports scene, the softball league. He's an exceptional player. Was selected an all-star for the Team CNMI in 1996 micro games. I was there to watch when he pitched against, I believe it was Team Palau, and he won the gold medal for Team CNMI. And every time I introduce Bart to friends, or I always mention that you're looking at a gold medalist for micro games representing Team CNMI. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I ask for your consideration to confirm Mr. Bart Jackson to the Board of Directors for Commonwealth Ports Authority. And I thank you in advance for your support. Suzuspasi, Hiliso, and thank you.
Thank you, sir. Still open for public comment? Anyone else? Once we close public comment, we're not going to go back to public comment. So I'm giving anyone else there in the gallery an opportunity to come up. If no one else, I close public comment at this time. Clerk, can you acknowledge those letters submitted, whether in support or not in support? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Senate EAGI Committee, Mr. Jackson, and members of the general public, in addition to the oral testimonies received today on the executive appointment of Mr. Bartley A. Jackson to serve as a member on the Commonwealth Ports Authority Board of Directors, please be advised of two additional written testimonies received in support from the Honorable Edwin P. Aldon, Mayor of the Municipality of Tinian and Aguiguan, and Frederick A. Pangilinan, Acting Executive Director, Commonwealth Ports Authority. At this time, no written testimony in opposition to the appointment has been received by the committee. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Macronas. This time, I'd like to open the floor for members to raise concern or questions in regards to this appointment. First, I would like to recognize the Vice President of the Senate, Mr. or Senator Carl King Nevers from the Island of Tinian.
Thank you, Chairman. And thank you, Mr. Barley, for, first of all, accepting the nomination or the appointment. I know we have access to your extensive background, but if you could, for the viewing public, kind of brief us on your educational history, some of your work history that you've spent your 30 years here within the Marianas and also specifically on Saipan.
Thank you, Senator. I grew up in New York, which is a long way from the CNMI, but it was island, so there was some commonality. Grew up on Long Island, and went to undergraduate at the University of Virginia. Then worked in the tourism business for an organization called Club Med years ago. Traveled around the world working for them. Left them, didn't see a future in it, and went to business school. Got my MBA in finance. Basically worked on Wall Street. Actually had an office on Wall Street for 6 years, but wasn't feeling it. And a friend of mine who I had worked with previously got a job in Guam working for PIC, and I decided to give it a shot and moved to Guam 1990. Worked as an executive at the Pacific Islands Club in Guam and was promoted in 1994 to the general manager position at PIC in Saipan. And lived in Saipan, was a member of the MVA board, a two-time elected member of MVA, participated in the Hotel Association of the Northern Marianas Islands, HANMI, and was very active in the community, member of the chamber, and very active in sports. I do have a gold medal in the 1999 South Pacific Games, and in the championship game, we beat Guam, which was really a great feeling. As someone who had started there, was a great feeling, and it was great. CNMI did great that year in the 99 South Pacific Games. It was really a lot of fun. And moved back to Guam. I was asked to move back to Guam when the general manager there had a stroke, took over PIC there, and I worked there for another 12 years until DFS, the owner of DFS, Bob Miller, wanted to build a hotel in Saipan. And he hired me to put that development project together. And we were basically done with the design, beginning fundraising for a hotel, which would have been in between the, I guess what's now the Crown Plaza and the Vrio, the Samoan housing area. And so we had a project. And at just exactly that time, IPI came in and decided that was, as everyone knew, a great location, and began to build what's now the casino on that location. So the hotel development project didn't happen. Since then, I've been traveling back and forth. I own a small hotel in Guam, Hotel Santa Fe, and a couple of restaurants, 3 Squares, for anyone who's been to any of those. And 6 years ago, I joined Bridge Capital, which initially started out as 50-50 Guam and Saipan, but due to the pandemic, became a Saipan only. And as of 2020, I'm in Saipan full time. So that's the Reader's Digest version of my adult life.
Thank you for that. I know you said earlier that you didn't have much experience in the transportation section and aviation, but do you feel that you would have you are willing to take on this role that's going to be in a field that's very heavy on FAA regulations and such?
Well, I said I wasn't an expert,
Yes.
but I have a lot of experience.
Okay.
In the years I was with PIC, as many more mature folks can tell you, back in the day, Koreans didn't travel to Saipan or to Guam. They traveled to PIC. They didn't really care where it was.
Mhm.
And that was because PIC had such a dominant position in the Korea market. PIC effectively created the Korea market. And I've had numerous discussions with Korean Air, with Jin Air, with Jeju. We were the ones who brought in the first LCCs, which is now the dominant player in the Korea market for any of the 4 to 5 hour, 3 to 5 hour destinations, of which the CNMI fits right in that category. So I've had, in fact, I don't know, I've had 50, 75 meetings with airline executives over the years, promoting the CNMI, promoting Guam, and talking about load factors and talking about landing fees and talking about all of these issues from the perspective of a marketing standpoint, trying to either convince airlines to add seats or talking to airlines who weren't yet flying to the region to give it a shot and try and start small, maybe schedule charters before they move forward and finalize and permanentize their flight schedules.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm not an expert in these things, but I've had an awful lot of experience in dealing with airlines specifically. Obviously, tour agents, you can't work in the business here without knowing how to interact with tour agents, and with as a member of the MVA board for almost 4 years, and I was a member of the GVB for 14 years. I've been very active in all phases of tourism, including how to get here.
Sure. Well, thank you for that clarification. That brings me on to my next question. Obviously, CPA is an agency that is not funded through the government and so relies solely on generating revenue internally. And so there are some concerns. Obviously, no reports yet have been submitted officially to labor regarding DFS Galleria and their store inside of the airport. And I was wondering, how concerned are you if you were to be appointed a board member of their exodus from?
It's a great concern. There isn't anything about the appointment that doesn't concern me.
Mhm.
I think this is a very challenging time. We don't have enough seats. You can't get tourists here without the right number of seats. Obviously, I'm much more familiar with that side than the port side.
Mhm.
But when your main tenant may leave, and that along with it the revenue source, it's a great concern. And first order of business, assuming the rumors are true and they're leaving, would be, how do we attract another tenant? And maybe it isn't one tenant, maybe it's several tenants, which hopefully together will maintain the level of contributions that the current tenant is making. But yeah, these are great concerns. Clearly, if I'm appointed, I'll be entering a very challenging environment.
Yes, understood. So one of the issues, obviously, as you know, being in the tourism market for so long and owning hotels and restaurants and whatnot, is the the availability or access to new tourism markets, existing markets, or markets that used to be up and available. How do you feel about the exemption on Annex 6 to include the Chinese market, remove us from the cap from the Chinese market?
Well, purely from a bodies standpoint, no politics, and unfortunately, it's difficult to get away from the
Of course.
politics in these times. The military buildup is playing such a large part in Guam's stability. And as you know, I was in Tinian recently, and there is a good deal of activity in Tinian as well. So it's impossible to operate in an environment devoid of the larger politics. But purely from a body standpoint, the China market is the largest tourism market in the world. And access to that market would certainly be of great benefit to the CNMI. That's purely from a tourism standpoint. Whether or not it's really a viable solution given the politics, that's something I need to learn a lot more about.
Understood. Now, have you made any attempts to, or have you reached out to current board members, former board members, to kind of get an idea or speak about some of the current issues?
I have not.
Not? Okay. Just lastly, one of my questions for you would be, if appointed, with considering that CPA does own the property that they have control rights over, if there's any decisions to be made on behalf of those properties, would you be able to give us your promise that any actionable items would be brought to the people in the form of a public hearing?
I don't know the protocol. I do believe that citizens have the right to dictate how property is used. Clearly, in the CNMI Article 12, and the right to own property is different than in many places. And how that ownership impacts decisions by the board, I really can't say. I wouldn't want to make a commitment in that regard without really knowing how, what had been done previously, what the precedents are, whether or not there are any rules and regulations which prevent requiring that, whether strategically or just as a matter of doing business. If you're going to go out with some kind of voter approved plan, how long does that take? And can you wait? So I think that there are just a lot of factors, and I'd be reluctant to promise.
Let me give you some examples. So on Tinian, for example, we tried. There was an effort made by the former CPA board to rename the airport. Before doing so, even though there was a desire, they had a public hearing to hear the voice of that second senatorial. In that capacity, would you be amenable to something
Absolutely.
like that?
Absolutely. I mean, it's important. I mean, it's important to make decisions with the largest perspective possible and not in a vacuum.
Okay.
And so in the case of renaming an airport in Tinian, not to include voices from Tinian would be a mistake.
Okay, that's all. Yeah. Well, thank you for that. And so again, thank you for your time and your acceptance of the appointment. I do know you have a lot in front of you, and I appreciate you volunteering to take on such a monumental task. Because as you said, as you know, everything is predicated on the economy, and tourism is our economy.
Yeah.
Absent a lifeline in that sector, I don't know how CPA is going to get out of its woes. To my understanding, they've been running in deficit for no more than 4 years in a row. So good luck if you get appointed. And again, thank you for your willingness to participate.
Thank you, Senator.
I yield, Chair.
Thank you, Vice President. Now I'd like to recognize Senator Magopnia from the 3rd Senatorial District.
Thank you, Chairman, and good morning to you, Mr. Jackson. First, I'd like to congratulate you on your appointment. And second, I'd like to thank you for accepting the appointment and your commitment to the Commonwealth should you be confirmed for this position. So I'd like to start with obviously you come from the private sector, and I would have to say that your resume is quite impressive, you know, being a graduate, MBA graduate of Columbia in finance, money and finance, I believe is what I saw. And yes, money and finance, MBA. And then you also have a BA in economics from University of Virginia. Two of the key elements to, you know, to a successful business. I am very, very interested to hear some of your plans and initiatives should you be confirmed. In your opening statement, you had stated that you have some business and tourism perspective that you would like to put forth on the table, and for the committee and the public listening in, if you don't mind, if you could share what those perspectives that you would like to bring to the table should you be confirmed. Thank you.
Thank you. You'd like me to speak on that? Or yes?
Absolutely.
Well, I think tourism is very simple. You know, it's about, you know, it's butts in seats. The only way you can get here is flying here effectively. I mean, the cruise industry is a one-off industry. You know, you can't be successful with one cruise stopping for a day. People get out and they spend a little bit of money and then they're gone. And the hotels don't benefit. The optional tours barely benefit. It's hard to really understand who benefits. And there isn't, unlike those of you who may traveled to cruises in Alaska or in the Mediterranean or in the Caribbean, you know, our region doesn't lend itself towards that kind of cruise activity. The islands are further apart. The water is a lot rougher. I mean, there are challenges. So cruises as a way to attract tourists, to me, doesn't make a lot of sense. So that leaves you with airlines. What kinds of incentives, or what can you restructure what we're doing to make it more attractive for more airlines or the current airlines to send more flights to the CNMI? I had a discussion last night with someone about Australia. When I started at PIC in Saipan, we were doing direct flights from Brisbane and Melbourne and Sydney. People don't, well, most folks here are too young to remember that, but the Australian market, the Australian New Zealand market, was an enormous market for the CNMI back in the early 90s, when many of you were in elementary school, or some had maybe not been born yet. But that changed for some reason, and the CNMI lost its appeal to that market. And so, you know, it's not just about money; it's also about demand. And so it's important, you know. And again, I'm speaking from a position of really not knowing how things work at the CPA board level or the MVA board level. I've been a board member of MVA years ago, but I don't know to what extent they work together. If they don't, they should, because CPA is trying to bring people in on airlines. MVA's responsibility is to create demand in certain markets. To me, those ought to be hand in glove. If they're not really walking down that path together, if their efforts aren't coordinated, then you're missing out. You're missing an opportunity to work together, to build consensus, to get all the agencies that do this. Whether or not you need to try and also include the Chamber of Commerce, the Hotel Association, all of these organizations that have their own mandate and their own charter and do their own thing. Well, that's great, but it doesn't build the kind of power that you need by working together. And so, I've got a lot to learn about the nuts and bolts, about how the ports work, how the airport works. But I can tell you that, you can't do it in a vacuum. And all of these organizations need to be pulling together. All of us pulling together in the same direction are going to be much more successful than each individual organization kind of pulling its own way. So I'm very much a consensus person, as you can hear, but it's all about attracting airlines to come, attracting airlines to send more planes. And for that, it's not just money. For that, you need to create that demand in the source market, identify whatever source markets there are, and create demand in those markets and by working with the airlines, hopefully we can fill the demand and fill hotel rooms and fill restaurants and get optional tours going again, and submarine and parasailing and all of these things which were so successful back in the day.
Great. Thank you for that answer, Mr. Jackson. And I would have to agree with you that in order for CPA to understand how to attract some of these airlines, it really, CPA has to work with MVA, with HandMe, with everything tourists, right? Because we as a Commonwealth need to understand what it is that we are selling out there,
Mhm.
and then understand who our source markets are, so that we can work with airlines that come from those markets and see how we can incentivize them to increase the number of flights that are coming to the CNMI. So I already like what I'm hearing. I know that Senator Carl has, mentioned some of the challenges that, at least what we know on the surface, as to what CPA is experiencing. And I wanted to ask, before I ask my questions, whether or not you've had a chance to review their citizen-centric report for 2024.
I've not.
Okay. Well, I highly recommend that you do, should you get confirmed, because it's quite alarming. And what I'm referring to is their finances, their financial situation at CPA. I say this because as I look at, sorry, let me just, now, anyway, as I look at the citizen-centric report, and I look at their revenues versus their expenses, it's very concerning. Looking back from fiscal year 2022, 23, and 24, specifically the airport, it looks like Seaport is doing much better than airport, and I'm sure there's a very good reason as to why that is, but it really helps us to understand why the discrepancy between the two ports. But I'll just give you a brief overview, and since you haven't had a chance to look at it, but should you get confirmed, please take a look at that and try to understand what's going on with regards to their finances. So at the airport, for fiscal year 2022, their revenues was at a little bit over 4 million, okay, but their expenses were 14 million. So a deficit of 10 million is very, very concerning. I'm sure there's a good rationale for that, but it just begs the question, right? Like, why are we spending beyond our means? And is there any way to reduce that deficit? Because that is quite a large amount to be in deficit in. And the more concerning thing is that every year after that has been a deficit Okay, so in FY23, they generated $7.9 million, but their expenditures was $14 million, almost 15 million. So they're spending double than what they're making, and we truly need to understand why that is. Granted, they are an autonomous agency and they do generate their own revenues. They don't come to the legislature and ask for money, but nevertheless, we need to understand that. FY24, revenues was 11.8. Their expenditure was 13.6. So again, still a deficit of $1.7 million. And I do see the significant decrease from the prior years, right? From 10 million, 7 million deficit to 1.7. So that's a huge accomplishment for CPA, so I am grateful to see that. Again, we still want to strive to spend within our means, but again, 1.7 is nothing compared to 10 million or 14 million. So that's that. At the seaport level, we see that the revenues. Their financials are actually healthy. Their revenues for FY22 was 6.5. They only spent 3.8, so they, had a surplus of 2.6. FY23, 7.5 million. Expense was 3.6, so they were doing well. FY24, it actually went up from 7.5 million to 8 million, right? And their expenses remain at the 3 million level. So it seems like Seaport is doing something right? If they're able to maintain their expenditure level almost, on the same level, right? We see the minimal increase and decrease. That, to me, that's very healthy, and that tells me that they know what they're doing down there. I don't want to, speak prematurely about the airport, but the numbers is what I'm looking at, and that is telling me something. I would like to recommend and suggest that on their citizen-centric report, if they could please provide a little bit more narrative as to what is causing these increases and the deficits or even surplus, right? So that we can truly understand where the improvements need to be made and, what the challenges are. They did listed a few challenges on the report. So I highly recommend that you take a look at the report to have an understanding of what the big picture is. But I just wanted to share that with you so that as a finance person and a business person with an economics background, I'm sure you have a lot to offer as far as recommendations. I really don't have any questions, honestly. I have full confidence in your credentials and the professional experiences that you have in the last 30 years. So I am, if anything, I have very high expectations of you, to bring about improvements and improve the standards and the services that we provide at the airport, and Seaport is obviously in great shape. I do want to share that in the challenges that was shared on the report, the procurement process is, at least from the report, is saying that the process is cumbersome and it often delays the services and goods needed to keep the ports operational. Maybe it's time that the director of CPA assess and reevaluates the existing processes and whatever regulations that are in place to see if any of those are still applicable in today's time. Update anything that needs to be updated, and really find ways to improve the efficiency and the effectiveness of those regulations. So I highly recommend that we, that CPA, maybe they're already doing it. We don't know. I'm just throwing out a recommendation. And then they also talked about the aging facilities, right? Obviously, it was built way back when, and we really do need to take a look at what we're also selling. Our ports is the very first impression that our visitors see when they land in our airport. So we definitely, if we're competing with our neighboring islands, what are we showing, right? So we also need to take some pride into what we are showing our visitors, not just our visitors, but even our own very people, right?
Sure.
And I know that the financing is an issue right now, but there are many ways to skin a cat. And if we, I don't recommend that we spend all of our money to make the improvements. If we can take out, a loan or a bond or some sort of financial assistance to improve the quality of what we are offering our visitors, right? Then sometimes it's just one of the steps that you need to take in order to produce that quality. So maybe that I'm sure that you'll take a look at that. And then the last thing that I see is the retention and recruitment of the employees at CPA. I know part of the reason that they explain is on there is the salary. We improve the services, the goods that we provide at the ports. More revenues are generated, and CPA is better able to increase the salaries of our employees. So those are the main three areas that I would like to express my concerns to you. And like I said, I will be, should you be confirmed, I have very high expectations of you. So I look forward to working with you and the rest of the boards and CPA and find solutions, right? We know what are the issues. We all know what those issues are. The key thing is we need to come together in unity and work, to make the CNMI a better place to live and visit. So thank you for your commitment again and for accepting. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I yield.
Thank you, Senator McGovney. Now I would like to recognize Senator Kavu from the island of Florida.
Thank you, Chairman. And I would like to welcome Mr. Bartley Jackson. We really thank you for your commendable, gesture in the appointment by the governor. Even me just taking a look at previewing the resume, it's a very pristine resume. You have years of experience. We'd like to also thank those who came up forward and witnessed your testimony, shared witness to working with you and the years of service. Just like myself as a freshman senator, coming into a position from this point of view and really honing and grasping and getting to understand, Commonwealth Ports Authority's, matters and everything at hand. It's a commendable action. We look forward. Our senatorial colleagues have pretty much, said the questions that are needed. I had questions regarding if you had known, have been familiarized with our current events as far as the ports is concerned, financially, and how you address your perspective in regards to the promotion of, the airport and seaport. So without further ado, Chairman, we wish you the best as far as the appointee, and we look forward to you helping the Ports Authority and the Commonwealth at hand.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator
yield.
Kavu. This time I'd like to recognize the President of the Senate, Senator Dennis Mendiola. Thank you, sir, for joining us. Do you have any concerns that you wish to?
Thank you,
Please.
Mr. Chairman. I just actually have one, and I kind of noticed the municipalities, or the senators from each municipality raised their concerns. So I wanted to just kind of bring something in terms of leadership at the CPA, and something that I've seen in the past that has caused an internal fight, if you will. So I wanted to just ask that is it, if confirmed, is it possible that we yield the decisions to the board members in which are hail out of that municipality, so that we can make sure that the concerns are addressed based on the constituents that they serve? What is your thoughts on that?
Clearly, there's a great structural challenge when you have effectively 3 islands. Let's just focus on the 3 islands, and each one wants its share. It's incredibly challenging to determine exactly what that share is and how to go about divvying up what's there. Everyone needs to be heard, and everything needs to be considered by all parties. But my personal thought is that it's a consensus decision of what's best for everyone, taking into account the individual needs of each of the islands. It's a bit of a juggling act, but I think it would be quite difficult to allow, once you allow each of the islands to do what's best for themselves, then what's the point of having a group working together? It's a delicate balance. And as I said, the concerns and goals and needs of each individual island need to be addressed as best possible. But when we're talking about the success of the CNMI, it's really the success of the CNMI, and not each island individually. We're strong in unity. Is strength, and as best possible, while considering, as I said, considering the needs of each, we need to make decisions as a group and not allow each of the individual islands to make their own decisions. That's my own view.
Thank you for that. And this is along the lines of one Marianas, right? And I like that statement that we're gonna come together and actually work together to decide how do we slice this operational needs based on what's available. The only concern there is that I tend to see that somebody outside the municipality seems to be the subject matter expert of the municipality, and that's where the challenge lies. So for me, for example, Rhoda, if somebody's going to make a decision for Rhoda, the consideration of that board member that comes out of or hails out of the municipality should be considered. Likewise,
Absolutely.
the mayor,
Yeah.
Likewise, the
Yes.
the people. So that's just really the concern. And you're right, absolutely right, that when we're going to slice that pie, it has to be a consensus of the
Yes.
body. And I agree with that. So thank you, Mr.
Thank you. I can, if you don't mind, I can share that years ago, when I was actually it started when I was on the MVA board, and then when I moved to the GVB board, that we discussed working together as a region and promoting as a region Guam and the CNMI together, and attended trade shows together with a massive Marianas booth. But unfortunately, the way it worked out was that the organizations at some point had a very difficult time getting along. And so even down to the size of the lettering, the square footage of, it became, unfortunately, it became we got lost in the petty discussion and lost sight of the great benefit in working together, working as a unified region, as a unified people in many ways. Granted, I don't want to oversimplify it, but and that's my comment about agencies working together, about MVA working with CPA, working with HUNMI, working with whatever, because there really is strength in unity. And to whatever organizations can do to work together, trying, it's very difficult, as I've seen, trying to put these petty differences aside. But in many ways, we've reached the point where things are really terrible. And tourism is terrible for Guam as it is here. The only difference is Guam has the benefit of having a buildup If we take away the buildup from Guam, and they're almost in exactly the same position as the CNMI, we're all facing the same problem. We all pull from the same source markets. So to whatever extent we can work together, it's important. But again, I understand, I've been around long enough to understand how strongly people feel about their island home, whether it's Tinian or Rhoda or Saipan, and how important it is. And that's a great consideration. It's a very delicate balance, but I think that the key is understanding that, granting each jurisdiction some power over itself while we try hard to work together and get joint decisions.
Thank you, Mr. Bart. Mr. Chair, I yield.
Thank you, Mr. President. And again, thank you, Mr. Jackson, for your commitment. And I appreciate submitting those last-minute requests. And I can see the commitment and devotion to, to be part of this board of directors. And that's what this committee is looking forward, is to see people, although this is not a full-time paid job, it's just a voluntary basis, and I appreciate the members of the public for, to volunteer their time to help our Commonwealth move forward to a better, economic prosperity. And I like your statement earlier that you've been very honest, been very straightforward with not been an experience in this field, and I appreciate that. I appreciate that you don't have any experience in regards to CPA, but you're experienced businessman, and we need economic growth here in the Commonwealth. The members mentioned earlier about how we can improve, and you mentioned about teamwork. And that's very that's very important, because everything that we do, if there's no teamwork, even though you have all the experience, all the knowledge, and there's no teamwork, it will never happen. And I always emphasize that whenever we conduct public hearing and different board, teamwork is the solution of success.
Yes.
So I asked, there's two, not a question, but I want to share with you in regards to the warfare that was passed in 2019. And I'm hearing about the warfare. I know that CPA had a lot of challenges with funding issue. And I understand that. But at the same time, we have to consider, not burdening the general public, because, this everyone is trying to meet their needs every day. It's everybody's having hard time. So and also with our economy. So as much as possible, let's not burden the general public, and sit together with the other members and find ways other than passing down the charges to the consumer.
Right.
So I asked that if there is an attempt by the board to address it to the legislature to to revive that warfare charges, meaning the law is there in place. Anything that comes from outside the Commonwealth, that's automatic being charged. But moving that commodities to the other island, that's the thing that we removed back then in 2019, just to lessen the burden on the consumer. So I know that you only one, but perhaps maybe you can consider what I just asked, that not to embed that another additional warfares into the public. And the other one is in regards to the bird fundings that we have down in Tinian. I know that the CPA has the full authority on that funding, and I I am not sure, and I have no idea how much left over from that $21.9 million. Um, like you mentioned earlier, we have to work together.
Yes, sir.
I'm not saying that that funding will be used for Justinian alone, but the least that was done was Justinian. But I'm asking that, to continue that renovation as of now, we haven't even used our international departure area, the newest building there. And I am asking that maybe perhaps this can be discussed with the board, that let's finish that, because Tinian is moving very fast. There's a lot of in and out, visitors, the military build up, construction activities, and that building is still sitting there, not being used. So I ask. I'm not saying that we're not going to share that. It's not our authority to make that final decision. It's CPA, but I'm asking that we must continue to retrofit that building,
Right.
so that we can attract visitors to come to the island of Tinian. And as we mentioned earlier, that to be more attractive for airlines, right? So not only the airlines, but to attract the tourists as well.
Sure.
So I ask that maybe perhaps if your voice as a board, if you're given the blessing by this body, we can look into that, so we can be able to to make it more attractive. And again, I appreciate your commitment to be in this board. It's not a paying job. I always mention in any hearing that it's a volunteer basis, and it's very difficult to find people that can commit and devote their time to serve in this kind of capacity, because it's not a paying job. And in fact, I see your resume, you have 3 huge responsibility and still holding that responsibility, and you're going to have this another responsibility. I know that it's a lot of challenges out there, and I hope that with the sitting members and the director and the staff of CPR, maybe perhaps you can sit down together and tackle all those critical areas there that are affecting our cinema. I know that it's very important to bring in tourists. We need other airlines. The people are very much affected by the airline fare.
Yeah.
I imagine from here to Tinian round trip, most especially Rhoda. Tinian is 150, Rhoda is about, I think, 300 plus. And if you look at the distance between here and other jurisdictions like Philippines, if you calculate the time, it's very, very expensive within inter-island. So I appreciate your commitment to serve in this capacity. Any other concern? Recognize Senator Magofnia.
So just Masi Chairman, Mr. Jackson, I appreciate the fact that you bring up the whole concept as well as the Senate President on that Juan Mariana's concept, right? Because it seemed to be working in the past, as you have stated earlier. And I'm not sure if you're aware or familiar, but the legislature is also working with the Guam legislature to foster this Juan Mariana's vision and work together in unison so that we can both benefit from legislations that affect our island chain. So I would like to encourage that perhaps maybe when you do get the confirmation that you kind of bring that it's not a new idea, right, but bring
Right.
that notion back
Right.
and see if we can start again. And speaking of Juan Mariana's, just looking at the citizen-centric report, we want to make sure that between the 3 senatorial districts that we are fair, with regards to employment, and that's what I'm referring to. As I look at the citizen-centric report, I see that under employees, at the seaport, Saipan has 19, Rhoda has 1, and Tinian has 3. Clearly, there's a disparity there between the 3 islands, and I would just wanted to point that out to you, that not only is there a disparity between the number of employees, but how can we effectively and efficiently operate a port with 1 employee?
Right.
You know, what happens when this employee is sick or has a family emergency or has to be a medical referral? Like, what is this? This is unacceptable. We should never just have 1 employee at a port that's critical to our economy. So can you please take a look at that and make sure that, you know, whatever the needs are, right, that is taken care of, but more so, we want to make sure that we are fair to our sister islands and make sure that, you know, we are not putting people's lives at stake or in danger because we only have 1 employee at the port. So I just wanted to share that with you. And if you could please take a look at that, should you get confirmed. Thank you. Thank you, Chair Ayu.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you. Any other member? Thank you, sir. At this time, all public comments are well taken. Let the record reflect that all written testimonies will be included in the Senate Standing Committee recommendation report along with all oral testimonies and will be forwarded before the full Senate members in consideration for confirmation or rejection. At this time, before we adjourn, I would like to extend on behalf of the members of the Standing Committee our sincere appreciation and gratitude to Mr. Oscar Babato, the governor's representative, the appointee, Mr. Bartley A. Jackson, and most especially the members of the general public for your participation and involvement during this important public hearing process. And we certainly hope that we continue this dialogue of communication between us, the elected officials, and the public to keep you abreast and informed of our current and future Senate hearings ahead that relates to public best interests. This concludes this public hearing. Do I hear a motion for adjournment?
Mr. Chairman, I offer a motion to adjourn today's Senate Standing Committee hearing on EAGI. So it's the call of the chair.
A second. There's a motion on the floor for adjournment and was seconded. All in favor say aye. Opposed say nay. Motion carries. This public hearing is now officially adjourned. Thank you.